All right, let's talk about it. For decades, there's been this one patch of the Atlantic Ocean that has completely captured our imaginations. I mean, we've all heard the stories of vanishing planes and ghost ships, but what's really going on in the Bermuda Triangle?
So, where did this all begin? The whole legend really kicks off on a clear afternoon, December 5th, 1945. This is the one incident that pretty much started the entire myth.
I mean, just look at this timeline. You've got what should have been a totally routine 3-hour training flight that just spirals into complete chaos. The lead pilot, an experienced guy, suddenly has no idea where he is, both of his compasses fail, and he makes this one fatal mistake, thinking they're over the Gulf of Mexico and turns them further out into the open Atlantic just as the sun is setting and the weather is getting bad.
And then, nothing. Just like that, they were gone. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies, nothing. They simply flew off into the twilight and disappeared. And you know, the massive search that followed would only make the mystery even deeper. So, naturally, a search and rescue plane gets sent out right away. A big Mariner aircraft, designed specifically for this kind of mission. It had a crew 13 people on board, and everyone was hoping they'd find the missing bombers.
And this is the part that's just chilling. The rescue plane vanished too. So now you have a total of 27 people who have gone missing in a single afternoon. A massive air and sea search turns up absolutely nothing. It was this bizarre double disappearance that really cemented the area's terrifying reputation. The legend had begun.
So how does one really bad day at sea turn into a global phenomenon? Well, the name Bermuda Triangle wasn't even a thing until 1964. But after Flight 19 was lost, people started connecting the dots, and the stories of other strange disappearances began to pile up.
And this is the spot we're talking about. This zone in the Atlantic between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. But here's the thing you need to know. This isn't some official map designation. You won't find it on any government chart. It's a space that was pretty much defined by writers and paranormal enthusiasts. And we are not talking about a small patch of water. We're talking about 500,000 square miles of open ocean. That's huge. And it's not some remote corner of the world either. It's a super busy corridor for ships and planes, which, only makes the stories feel that much more unsettling.
Yeah, it quickly got this really fearsome reputation. I mean, even before it was the Bermuda Triangle, sailors had other names for it, like the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Just hearing that name, it sets a certain mood, doesn't it? It just creates this expectation of danger before you even get there.
And it wasn't just planes either. You had these incredible stories about ships. One of the most famous is the USS Cyclops, this enormous Navy vessel that vanished with over 300 people on board without even sending an SOS. And then there's the truly bizarre tale of the Ellen Austin, which honestly sounds more like a horror movie than something that actually happened.
Okay, so these stories are absolutely chilling, right? The kind of stuff you'd tell around a campfire. But this is where our investigation has to take a critical turn. This is where we start trying to separate the folklore from the hard facts. So let's take that ghost ship story, the Ellen Austin. When you're talking about something from 1881, it's pretty much impossible to find solid official records to verify it. Researchers have looked, and there's just no definitive proof that it happened the way the story is told. It feels a lot more like a sea shanty, an urban legend passed down over the years.
Okay, so if we're ruling out aliens, sea monsters, and ghost ships, what's left? What are the real scientific explanations for the things that did happen? Well, it turns out there are some pretty compelling theories.
Okay, check this out. For centuries, a very real phenomenon called an agonautic line ran right through the Bermuda Triangle. This is one of the few places on Earth where a compass needle points to both true north and magnetic north at the same time, which could be incredibly confusing for a pilot or a captain who isn't ready for it.
And this might sound a little technical, but the difference between these two norths is absolutely crucial for navigation. Your compass points to magnetic north, which actually moves around over time. But your maps? They're based on geographic north, which is fixed. In a place where those two things suddenly align when you're not expecting it, well, your calculations could be thrown way off, sending you disastrously off course. In fact, even Christopher Columbus wrote about his compass acting weird in this exact area.
And it's not just about navigation. The environment itself is a huge piece of the puzzle. The area has these vast, super treacherous shallow waters that can easily ground a ship. It sits right in the middle of Hurricane Alley, where storms can pop up with terrifying speed.
And then there's this wild theory about massive eruptions of methane gas from the seafloor that could, in theory, lower the water's density so much that a ship could just sink in seconds.
But here's the thing. As compelling as all those physical explanations are, the biggest clue to this whole mystery? It might not be in the ocean at all. It might actually be inside our own heads. It's all about the power of a really good story.
It all comes down to something called the Bader-Meinhof effect, or the frequency illusion. And this right here, might just be the psychological key that unlocks the whole thing. It's a weird quirk in our brains that we've all experienced, and it explains how a bunch of totally unrelated accidents can start to look like some kind of sinister pattern.
It's actually super simple, and you've totally experienced this. Think about it. You buy a new car, right? And then suddenly you see that exact same car everywhere you go. The number of those cars on the road didn't actually change. Your awareness of them did. And that is exactly what happened with the Bermuda Triangle. Once it got a catchy name, we all started paying special attention to any accident that happened inside that imaginary boundary, while ignoring all the similar accidents that happened anywhere else.
All right, so let's put it all together. You've got some questionable stories, some very real environmental dangers, and our own psychology all mixed in. So what's the final verdict from the experts, the people who actually patrol these waters every single day? Well, here's the official word from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They say, flat out, there's just no evidence that mysterious things happen there any more often than in any other busy, stormy part of the ocean. Statistically speaking, it's just not that special.
And the U.S. Coast Guard, they completely agree. They don't even officially recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a uniquely hazardous area. To them, any accidents that happen there are the result of heavy traffic and extreme weather. Logical, physical causes. No mystery needed.
You know, we can even go all the way back to the very beginning, to Christopher Columbus and his weird compass readings. What was that all about? Well, scientists are pretty sure he was just sailing across that agonomic line we talked about. And that strange ball of fire he saw in the sky? Most likely just a meteor entering the atmosphere. A spectacular sight for sure, but a perfectly natural one. So, in the end, the Bermuda Triangle is maybe less of a real place on a map and more of an idea that we've all built together. It's this powerful combination of real tragedy, dangerous conditions, and our own deep-seated desire for a good mystery. Which kind of makes you wonder, maybe the real mystery isn't what's happening out there in the ocean, but why we love these stories so much in the first place.